Hey, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Ask a Brother podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and today's episode is titled Let's Be Honest About Charlie. Woe to those that call evil good and good evil. Isaiah 5:20. Conservative evangelical activist, commentator, and co-founder of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, was fatally shot on Wednesday, September 10th, at Utah Valley University. Although many undoubtedly and naturally will focus on the shooting, their potential political affiliation and motivations of the shooter as well, I decided I would reflect on the man and discuss my initial thoughts, having observed the reactions on social media, as well as his legacy. He leaves behind a wife and 2 kids. My initial response number 1, the cheering. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. That was from the song Strange Fruit, recorded originally, I believe, in 1939 by Billie Holiday. And that song captured a very, very ugly period in U.S. history, the Jim Crow era, where there would be photos that we all could see, and some of us even grew up watching and seeing, where black men, or more so their bodies, were hanging, and there were white faces surrounding their bodies. Adults, wives, husbands, kids. It was like a spectacle. I always wondered, when I think about those photos, whenever I see them, what was going through the mind of those people who laughed, who cheered, and even brought their children out to watch for entertainment. And then I look at today, and I think about the fact that I've seen the countless comments, remarks, jokes, general glee and happiness of those that found out the news that Charlie Kirk was here no more. For those of us who are the descendants of Jim Crow, specifically, who are the most excited and most happy about the death of this individual, what has become of us that we are anything like those in those photos, who we would have considered to be nothing more than animals, who lost their humanity? Maybe in seeing some of the reactions and responses in our group texts, in our social media feeds, or maybe we've even posted or shared ourselves, maybe we aren't as different or evolved as we thought ourselves to be. And have we become the very thing that we hate? What is different in the heart of one that cares not for the life lost of their rival versus those that care not for the life of children born in the wrong place at the wrong time in history? In the end, is the outcome of each heart's disposition not the same? Response number 2. Charlie Kirk had a legacy that was filled with many, many different things. some of which were quite positive, being a father, a dutiful husband, a provider, and a push towards traditional masculinity in an environment that, seeks to almost discourage men from wanting to become either of those things anymore. But there was also a second side to his public persona and legacy: the dog whistling, the racial undertones, and at times even the outright hatred and bigotry. Some of the clearest examples of where this was most displayed was in areas like abortion, the Black community, and even his views about Arabs, Muslims, and Palestinians. It seemed like Charlie somewhat went out of his way to demand a pardon for the officer that had his knee on the back of George Floyd's neck. Obviously, he's speaking more so to the drug overdose and a lack of seemingly care that this individual had someone like that in that type of compromised position. That wasn't really as big of a deal to Charlie. His stance on abortion is debatable in the sense of why so many people had concerns about his far-right perspective on being quote-unquote pro-life, and his stance being one in which, and he was even asked flat out, it seems like you're against all exceptions. Does this include if you had a 10-year-old daughter? Would you still expect her to deliver that baby if she was raped or molested? I'll give him credit. He stuck to his guns and said, even then. He said that abortion was prohibited in all circumstances, including rape and incest. And that rape doesn't make abortion acceptable. When it came to race, he had a variety of very interesting coded language to describe the Black community specifically. I vividly remember in the early days and discussions of DEI as it related to pilots. And he said, if I see a Black pilot, I'm going to be like, I hope he's qualified. That was obviously in keeping with the belief that what was not stated was that he would not feel the same if he saw a white pilot. As if they were, just taking random people off the street and putting them behind the cockpit. But it went a little bit deeper than that with Charlie when it came to race in the Black community. It seemed like one of his bread and butter go-to talking points whenever he was often traveling was this obsession with Black on Black crime. And the issue is not that Charlie or conservatives or right-leaning individuals would bring up Black on Black crime. Heck, I might bring it up and oftentimes will. The issue is the lack of reference to quote unquote white on white crime or criminality. He, like many of his political counterparts, or peers rather, would go out of his way to talk about the 13% of the population representing 50% of the crime. I'm going to say this and hopefully clear this up for those that continuously use this specific talking point. The same way that there's an over-fixation with Charlie on Black criminality and culture, but never quite the same attention or energy when it came to the culture of the majority. That seems to suggest that you're attempting to pathologize one community as if there aren't issues within each community. When you reference the 13% of the population and you factor in every single person that's in jail, every single person that's committing crime, within that population. It is not 13%. It's not even close. But when you use 13%, it gives this impression that you're both attributing the acts of the few onto the many, and that we should view the group by the actions of the few. Charlie never did that when it came to white male mass shooters. He never referenced the white community whenever a white individual committed a crime or did some act of terrorism. He never quoted the percentage currently of white people as an explanation or description. In Charlie Kirk's worldview, it seemed that white people tended to be allowed to be seen as individuals, and black people, whether they were pilots or criminals, were seen as a monolith. We don't have to go too much into detail because I will go further down as it relates to his views in terms of his denial that Gazans were ever starving and that Palestinians didn't or don't exist. Response number 3. Irony. For someone who spent so much of his life, particularly his adult life, talking about black on black crime, Muslims, immigrants, and more than likely being killed by somebody that was none of these things, potentially, i.e., he's in Utah, public space. There hasn't been any videos or pictures as of yet of a black or Muslim individual being shown, but to be fair, we don't know as of yet. But I won't be shocked that if we are to ever find out who the suspect is, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not many of the people that he spent a significant amount of time focusing on. There was a quote that he said that leads me to the level of feeling of irony, which was, it's worth the cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every year so that we can have the Second Amendment. Now, to be fair, I might actually agree with Charlie in many respects as it relates to the Second Amendment, but still none the same. I don't think that he had ever truly anticipated the idea, especially at this point at 31 years old, that it could be his death that was worth the cost. In response number 4, enough with the platitudes, with the pleasantries, with the state of this empire and this civilization that we call a country. Political violence has no place in this country. We see it, we hear it, we read it all the time. And deep down, we know when they say political violence has no place in this country, this is being said by 2 political parties who fund endless wars, assassination attempts, and political violence abroad. Our politicians choose to destabilize entire regions around the planet, steal resources from nations, topple governments. Our country, our political system, our political discourse are based on nothing but lies and hypocrisy. We know this thing that just happened with Charlie, it'll come and go by mid-October. And almost no one will be talking about this 30 days from now. So in conclusion, I think his life and his passing are reflected in the mixed emotions of those still here. You can't have a life filled with marginal bigotry, cultural elitism, and empire praising talking points and be shocked when not everyone is sad when you are gone. Do not gloat when your enemy falls, when they stumble. Do not let your heart rejoice, or the Lord will see and disapprove and turn his wrath away from them. Proverbs 24:17-18. Rather than mourn, or rather than pretend to mourn, I will say that his death is symbolic of many things. For me, there will be no tears nor sadness, but there will be concern for our political climate and knowing whether this message came from a lone individual or a hired hit on the behalf of a three-letter agency or foreign government. The message is still clear. Public ideas, freedom of speech, and your willingness to act on these ideals can come with a cost. You aren't as free as you think you are, and the rest of you should remember that. That's the message. But regarding Charlie, now he knows what life in Gaza must have been like, and he will probably get the same sympathy he showed for the children of Gaza. Or maybe Charlie never existed at all, like he claimed about Palestinian people. I understand the feeling of those that aren't cheering, nor are really even saddened. The feeling of being conflicted about how to feel about this situation in Charlie Kirk. I just know we are desensitized whether a sniper takes out a conservative evangelical, commentator on a college campus, or a child, or a journalist in the Middle East caught in the middle of a conflict. And the truth is, we've been trained to only acknowledge one of them. Guess which one that is? Woe to those that call evil good and good evil. The truth and your legacy and how you've chosen to view people, speak of people, and treat people will impact how we feel when you're gone. I don't believe that this is a reason to cheer. I don't believe that this is a reason to mourn for many. But like I said earlier, I think it's okay to be conflicted. I am. I personally look at this moment as a greater concern over freedom of speech, freedom of ideas and expression, and the signal and message that it sends to the rest of us. I did not agree with Charlie on many things. Some things I did. And I wish that the publicity and the care and the concern of those that have those things in this moment, I just wish that those that Charlie did not quite feel those same level of concerns for, I wish that those who more aligned with him politically felt the way they feel today about Charlie. I wish that they had felt that way about many of the people he spoke of that wasn't so favorable. But I will not say that this is good. I will not say that this is right. I can disagree with him and still believe he should be here. I can disagree with him and still believes he has a right to speech. I personally would have loved to debate him, to challenge his ideas. But I will not be the people in those old black and white photos, standing before a dead corpse, cheering and showing in that moment that my humanity is gone. He was a flawed man. He appeared to be a good husband. He appeared to be a good father. He was a very effective political strategist. Some of his ideas, I believe, were actually right. And there were certain aspects of traditionalism and conservatism that probably would be good for any nation, state, and society to actually thrive and survive. But here we are. So, there's no shock value. There's no extra anything. I just know that if we were to think of him and speak of him and treat his life as he treated the lives of those who he deemed not on his side, whether domestically or foreign born, I don't know that we'd be speaking about him more than we do today. May his ending being cut and his life being cut as short as it did, may his life be something that encourages us to strive to try to be better people to the people that we actually see and are around on a daily basis now. It's not about hating all conservatives. It's not about hating all liberals. It's not about hating all white people, black people, and everything in between. It's about attempting to see the humanity in our fellow neighbors, even when we vehemently disagree. So, don't be the people in those photos, those Jim Crow photos, standing around black bodies swinging in the summer breeze, happy and ecstatic that another life was lost. Let our humanity in 2025 and going forward be more expressed, more obvious, and more shown. And let us not align and resemble and be like those whose humanity was traded in for entertainment and fun. Just a thought. So, those are my thoughts. I would be very interested to see what you all have to say in the comments. Stay tuned for many more things to come from this channel and this platform. Thank you for your time. Godson out. Peace.